let's think about Zerg versus Zerg, Ling Bane Wars, into a Roach versus Muta scenario. The advantages and disadvantages of going for either style. Good on FMJ for turning off the stream. Showing some respect for the opponent is always nice. Both players open with the exact same build pretty much. Hatch gas pool. Drone counts should be very even. It's cross spawn. And at this moment, when these two overlords pass each other, is when both players know that it's cross spawn. So they can adjust them, going to each third base location. Baneling nest. And then the first divergence between the two players is when I take this fast third base. This third base timing in Legacy of the Void isn't actually that greedy. You can use this third as a health buffer and as a source of larva income, even if you don't drone it. So, say this player opts to go for some Ling Bane aggression. I have about the same economy, and I can also go Ling Bane. And I'm defending this third hatch with a spine crawler. Boom. Got an anchor. So, as we said, about 9 workers here, 16 workers in the main, and then 1 gas of Ling Bane aggression. One of the unique features of Lairlac is that it has 2 ramps into the natural expansion, so often it's good to apply multiple points of pressure to the opponent. Lings are very, very fast, so some of these Lings could have potentially snuck around here, maybe checked on this third base, maybe run past this queen into the main, and it becomes a much more difficult defensive procedure for the player with the third base if they have to defend this ramp and this third hatch. So that would be an improvement on this attack. Let's look at the defense. It's very noteworthy that I pulled my queen from the main to the natural to defend, and then I made another queen in the main. Looks like they got a few worker kills there. Yep, 2 worker kills. But still, after this attack, slightly behind. And then that was a better Ling Bane trade for me. Remember to keep your Banelings in groups of 2. It takes 2 Banes to blow up Banes, 1 Bane to blow up Lings, unless upgrades come into the equation. If a player takes Carapace, then it will take 2 Banes to kill Lings. So, I transferred some workers from the natural to the third base during that attack, just to keep them alive. And now I have a big larva advantage, and I'm trying to leverage that by making some Ling Bane and attacking the opponent's third base. So FMJ actually has a drone lead here, but I have a larva lead and a queen lead. So I'm going to be able to produce a lot more drones and Lings, even with less economy. Boom. Something you can do, if you see an opponent who's attacking you and you know you can't defend that location, would be to say, alright, I'm going to cancel this base and I'm just going to run my Lings to the other side of the map. This number of Lings isn't going to be very useful in defending a bunch of Banes, so if you have the Ling advantage, it's best to run to the opponent's side of the map. Often, they'll cut some corners, so like I only have a spine here, I have no safety Banes. I have neither spine nor safety Banes at this base, and I have nothing defending this base. So if there are a bunch of Banes right outside your base, just send your Lings, and then defend with your own Banes, is usually the better option. So this was kind of the right idea, just came a little bit too late, so I had time to produce more Lings. And then now, blue has fallen behind in drone count, and in larva. So Muta, it's a pretty powerful move in cross spawn, but the Muta player is going to have the later 4th base by virtue of having a lot less mineral income. So I'm trying to be active with my Lings, see what's going on. This Overlord sees the 3rd base, and I'm just droning, taking a macro hatch once I have about 3 base saturation. This base is a little bit oversaturated. I'm going for lair. but I still don't know precisely whether or not it's Muta or Roach. Let's look at my scouting information. I know there's a Spine, Bane Nest, Hatch. I haven't seen these gases yet, and I haven't seen a gas in the main. All I know is that this base is coming down much later than mine. So I'm leveraging my economy lead and attacking with some Roach Bane. The Mutas for FMJ come out at a really nice time, so he'll be able to clean up this attack without sustaining critical damage. Ideally here I would have my Bane split a little bit better, but that was a pretty good hit for the Roaches. When Roaches are attacking into a Muta player, usually you want to split them up and attack multiple locations. The Mutas take quite a while to eat through Roaches if they don't have upgrades, and +1 isn't even close to being done yet. So putting 3 or 4 Roaches in each base is usually going to be better than having all your Roaches in one spot. That's also due to Mutalisk attacks bouncing from target to target. So I'm just spending my economy into Roaches. This isn't really dealing direct damage to the Muta player, but it's causing the Mutas to stay on their side of the map, which is giving me freedom to make a bunch of queens, to take my upgrades, to take some infestation pit, to go into hive, and it buys time for these spore crawlers. I opted for tunneling claws as my follow-up to the Roach attack this time. That allows the Roaches to sneak around the map and also force overseers and spores out of the opponent. Notice the spore crawler placement. I have about 3 per base. So I have 3 here, protecting this geyser, protecting the back of the mineral line, and then protecting the macro hatch here. Protecting this geyser, protecting this kind of transfer area. 1 back here protecting the Evo chamber and the infestation pit. 1 here protecting this gas, and then 1 here protecting this transfer area. And then I'm adding 3 more at the 4th base. Sending Roaches again. Tunnel Claws is about to kick in. I already have Burrow. So this won't deal huge damage, and he will be able to make some Overseers to defend this, but that's half a Muta worth of gas that he just spent. And then a Spore as well. With Muta play, an option that I really like to go for is Ultra. If you're going for Mutas, often you can prevent players from killing you with Roaches, and Ultras trade incredibly well against Roach Hydra based armies. And if you have Hive Tech, you can add Vipers to blind Lurkers if the opponent goes for like a Roach Hydra Lurker attack. In Legacy of the Void, I feel like Viper is a better option against Muta than Infestor is. It takes 6 Infestors to deal with a big Muta flock and fungal them all the way down, but really only about 4 Vipers, and you could kill this Muta flock pretty quickly. So I'm just producing Queens right now. That's mainly so that I can bank gas and get into Vipers. The more Vipers the better. I think making about 5 or 6 would be as many as you would want when you're playing against someone going for Muta. And then whenever the Mutas go across to your side of the map, you can send some Roaches, and that will pull the Mutas back home. This attack didn't really deal any damage, but it prevented these Mutas from attacking me before my Vipers were ready. So the first Roach Bane attack was just kind of leverage my larger economy. The second Roach attack was to buy time for the Spores, and then that third Roach attack was to buy time for these Vipers. And I made 6 Vipers. Something to be mindful of if you're facing someone who's going really heavy into Muta is they can potentially make a lot of Banes. So FMJ goes for Ling Bane Muta this game. If I went for a bunch of Hydras without much support, I would probably wreck my army pretty badly. So you want to have some buffer for the Hydras, either Roaches or Queens or both, maybe some Lurkers as well. So with the Vipers, as they're coming in, you want to kind of pop those parasitic bombs as fast as you can, so they don't have very much time to split. And that was just 4 parasitic bombs. Wiped the whole Mutaflock. That's basically game. There isn't really a great way to come back from that. But the key for the Muta player, if you're facing someone who you're worried they might be going for Viper, is you could send some lings into the base where their lair was to find out when they're finishing their hive. If you know that Vipers are in the game, when you're going in for an engagement, you can kind of have a pre-split Mutaflock rather than be clustering your army really tightly. So we can kind of watch the finishing composition, but that was basically the killing move in the Roach versus Muta scenario. Ultra Hydro Viper is an all-around good composition in every matchup. Ultra is kind of like the tier 3 Roach, but it deals a lot more damage, has a lot more armor.